Hi guys, welcome to the video. Another week has gone and it's been a pretty good one. Obviously we've got two full weeks. This is the third week now of prep, and obviously very smooth running so far so good. I've dropped 4 pounds, weighed in this morning at 203. Heaviest I weighed in was like 207.75 I think, so almost 4 pounds. Which is not as much as we expected or potentially wanted in the first couple of weeks, but we're finding a nice deficit now, and simple as when we're not dropping as much as we want, we'll just create more of a deficit, simple as that. But yeah, everything else, you know, other than the scale weight not dropping maybe as fast as we wanted, everything else is in a really good spot. You know, training's going great, feeling good day to day, appetite's still in a good spot, not finding it tough at all at the minute, which obviously is expected, you know. And I'm sort of in the mindset that even when I do start to find it tough, I don't want to really succumb to that and go on about it and moan about it, because it's my own choice. And I feel like the more you do that, the harder it gets. If I'm going every day like, oh, I'm so hungry, I'm tired, I'm this, I'm that, I'm moaning, it brings you down more than if you just get on with it and almost try and tell yourself that you're fine, just get on with it, you're alright, you're right. So that's sort of my outlook on it, and that's how I'm going to aim to be. But obviously, you know, I'll be honest, when I'm starting to struggle, I will be honest, but I'll just try and not moan too much about it. So yeah, all in all, really good week. The session from this week that I filmed was my leg session at Pure. So I have one of my leg sessions at Warehouse, which is like the pendulum rotation, and I have one leg session at Pure Gym, which is the hack squat rotation. Pure Gym is literally across the road from where I live, that's where I work. It's not the most amazing gym to train out of, if I'm honest. Like, all Pure Gyms aren't, you know, amazing gyms in terms of atmosphere. The kit is okay, it does the job. The hack squat is not amazing, but again, it does a job. And the session is still a brutal session. I get a hell of a lot out of it. It's still a good session, even though it is just in a commercial gym. I'm not all for, you know, people are like, oh god, you know, you can't make any progress in commercial gyms. Like, of course you can. Like, that's just it's a stupid thing to say. You definitely can. You can 100% make progress in commercial gyms. You create the environment. Yes, the kit might not be as good as some gyms. Yes, the environment might not be as good as some gyms, but you can still make the most out of what you've got. You know, some people only have access to that, only can afford that. So yeah, I'm not for that sort of that view of you can't make any progress out of commercial gyms. Anyway, we'll get into the session. So I'm going to have a chat through the session, and I'll let sort of a couple of clips roll through it. But we started with a seated hamstring curl. So I would always sort of prefer to start a leg session with a hamstring variant. One, because it's a weak area of my physique, and two, just because I feel like it's a good place to start. It's a nice movement to get them warm, and then also aid your next movement, so your main compound movement, once the legs are a bit warmer, once the hamstrings are a bit warmer. So with this one, I see a lot of people like literally all over the place, hips coming up all the time, chucking it around. I really focus on always sucking my stomach in, so thinking belly button like back in towards the pad to keep my back in the pad as much as I can. Focus on keeping my hips down. You can see how much I'm pushing myself in and locking myself in, and then I hold that posture and just drag down from there, and I don't want any detriment to that positioning. So that was the top set shown there, and I had 3 sets. So I have a top set of 6 to 9, and then 2 backup sets of 12 to 15, just to accrue some more volume, like I say, with it being a weak area. Then we went on to the hack squat. So I will leave my top set on the screen.
Come on! Come on!
but this is my back off set. So the top set wasn't great. The band that I used was actually one of the newer bands, so it didn't feel really great. It felt quite slack in comparison to the previous band that I've used before, but it still went okay, and I'm looking forward to it next time. I'm sure I'll be able to progress that next time. This is the back off. Obviously it's sped up, but I'm pretty sure the rep range was 12 to 15 and I got 17. And so I was happy with that. Sort of made up for a couple of reps down on the top set. Even though it was a new weight, I was a couple of reps, I was a rep short of the rep range. But with this one, I'm trying to think about pushing my hips back as much as I can, not letting my hips come out, not letting my heels come up. So my feet are as low as I can get them on the platform, which is going to be comfortable for me. So as low as I can keep them without my heels coming up. And I'm focusing on driving through those heels and driving my knees out. Focusing as well on a lot of air, big air in. Yeah, a lot of people struggle with that. They're not getting enough air in between the reps and they're not holding that brace in. So before I go down for each rep, I take a big breath in, brace hard. So when I'm bracing, I'm imagining if someone's going to punch you in the stomach, imagine holding your gut as tight as you can. I'm always thinking to push air out and hold it in, brace as tight as I can. And I actually wear a belt on that. I don't wear belts for my deadlifts or any of my pull variations because I want to use more erector, but the goal for the hack squat is to target more leg, more quad. So being a bit tighter through the core and using less erector isn't a bad thing. Okay, then it was leg press, so I'll leave the top set on the screen. I was pretty happy with that top set, to be fair. A couple were a little bit short of range, but generally it was a pretty good set on 525. Then the back off was 475 and I'm pretty sure I got 17 reps. So again, a couple of reps up from the rep range. That's something that I try and get across to people is don't set yourself a specific number. Like a rep range is good, so like 12 to 15. But if you've got more when you hit 15, then take those reps. Yeah, there's no point going, oh, I've hit 15, so I'm done. Okay, if there's reps there, then take them. Take it to failure. With this one, really focus on pulling myself down to the seat. A lot of people don't do that. I say to my clients, you really need to pull yourself into the seat to create more stability. So I'm locking myself in, big deep breath in, again, focusing on the bracing, and then just focusing on the similar things to the hack squat. So heels down, knees out, control on the way down, powerful on the way up. With the band, obviously it's creating more tension as we press up because the band's going from slacker at the bottom to tighter at the top. So it's just making it a little bit tougher on the quads as they get shorter to make the resistance profile of the machine match up with the strength profile of the quads. I also stay on this machine to do calves, so I just have 3 sets of 15 to 20 on calves. Obviously a weak area for me, generally a weak area for a lot of people, a lot of guys. But again, that's a lot of the time down to neglecting them because they're boring to train. A lot of people don't train them, and when they do, they train them poorly. So I'm really focused on execution now with these, and controlling it into a fully lengthened range, having at least a good sort of second in that stretch, feeling that stretch, and then pressing and thinking to go onto my big toe. So I'm imagining trying to almost like go over onto my big toe and then spend a good half a second to 1 second contraction. Next was a hip thrust. So this is relatively new into the program, which is actually quite nice. You'll notice I do dead stop, so I let it rest every time, and that's just because I struggle with my back when I do continuous reps. So if I keep the reps going without the pause at the bottom, I struggle to brace, and then I feel like the tension goes more onto my lower back versus my glutes. So if that's something that you struggle with, then dead stop reps may be better. I'm thinking on keeping my heels locked down, knees out, and just driving the hips up towards the ceiling. And that's what I'm trying to think. That hips almost like up to the ceiling, up towards my ribs to sort of really get the glutes nice and short. Then on to pro and leg curl, 3 sets, 6 to 9, 2 sets of 15 to 20. So again, just more hamstring volume, trying to grow the hamstrings and make them less of a weak area. With this one, hips locked down. Think about like thrusting my hips and pushing my bum into the pad every single rep. When I initiate every rep, I think hips down, almost like thrusting. Think what you've just seen on the hip thrust. I'm almost imagining that at the start of each rep. And then rather than trying to chuck it back, I'm trying to think of a dragging motion. I'm dragging my heels back. I'm not chucking it and using too much inertia and momentum. I'm trying to drag it back nice and smooth, get those hamstrings short, contract them nice and hard, and then slow on the way down. It's like easy to just chuck that one. So I try and prevent that as much as possible. The next thing was adductor. So 2 sets here, 1 set 6 to 9, 1 set 12 to 15. Trying to make sure that I'm not letting my hips slide forward. That's quite common on this one when people start to struggle. Their hips come further and further out of the seat. So I'm trying to hold myself in the seat and keep my hips back, and then just driving my knees together. Some adductors are easy to stack and then add plates to, but this matrix one for some reason is very, very heavy. I do I think 2/3 of the stack, and I can get 6 to 8 kind of range. So it's a very heavy one, and I just recommend when you are performing an adductor to do plenty of warm-ups, because it's very easy to tweak them. So I'll do 2-3 warm-ups, and then even on my first rep of my top set, I'll usually guide it slowly with my hands just to make sure that they sort of feel warm enough for that load. But again, very good movement. I'd recommend that in anyone's leg training. Definitely, a lot of people neglect that and don't want to use those adductor and abductor machines, especially guys. I'd recommend them. And then finished with a little bit of abs, so cable crunches. Great angle here for you. On this one, again, loads of people do it wrong and they actually push their hips back. They end up doing a hip flexion exercise and just push hips back and forward, and it's the goal is to keep the lower body fixed and just simply flex the spine. That's what the function of the abs is to flex the spine. So I'm not trying to sit back in it and just get the weight down. I'm trying to curl my spine round and bring my head down towards my knees and crunch my abs every rep, and think about actually pulling through my abs. I'm relaxed through my hands aren't pulling the weight, they're just resting sort of above my head. I use 2D handles because I prefer that to a rope. It doesn't crush your hand as much. And then I'm trying to think about just curling my head and my shoulders down and contracting my abs nice and hard, and then coming up to get a full stretch, feel that stretch and contract against it. But it's a tough one. That takes a lot of practice and a lot of people do it wrong. But that was the session. Very, very good session. Like I say, it's not the best environment, not the most amazing gym in the world, but it does a job, and the session does a job. So yeah, I will put the check-in photos from this week on the screen now. So not a huge difference, obviously. First couple of weeks of prep, you're not going to see a huge drop, but there are slight differences. I'm starting to feel less bloated. I'm not obviously eating as much, I'm not as full all the time. I think last thing at night, I was going to bed feeling sick and feeling full from my last meal, whereas now I'm going to bed and I feel like I can get in bed comfortably without feeling too full, which is nice. And I feel like I can sort of see that in my physique with the photos. I don't look as bloated. I wouldn't say I look a lot leaner, I just look a bit less full and a bit less bloated. My legs look a bit smaller already, which is awful. It's very frustrating. I've never had big legs, I've always had very small legs. I've never obviously competed, I've never got them absolutely diced. So the leanest I've been when the last time I got really lean, I didn't have any legs, and that's because obviously I wasn't really training them as much as I do now. They weren't anywhere near as strong as they are now. But still, I can't imagine myself having good legs. I still see myself with having awful legs. And I know they're not great, they're still a weaker point. But it's just frustrating when it's more so it's a psychological thing. It's in my head. They're not smaller. They're just a little bit less full because I'm eating a little bit less and I'm doing a bit more steps. That's all it is. I know when they get lean that I will still have some muscle there, obviously, but it's just a bit of a sort of, it messes with my head a little bit. It's a bit frustrating. But other than that, I'm happy with how things are going. I feel like posing's getting better. So with my posing, I'm currently practicing every single night. So I do, just before I get in the shower, I do a round of posing, that's it. That will probably progress to a couple of rounds, then maybe 3 rounds. Obviously soon enough I need to start getting my my own routine together, and then I'll start doing it without a mirror to replicate what it'll be like when I actually compete. So that's what I'm doing. Pre-bed is like 5 minutes of posing, and it is getting better. I just need to keep working on it and keep perfecting it day in, day out, because otherwise it won't just happen. I need to keep working on that, because it's something that's really important, and I don't want to end up being on stage with a good physique and losing because of posing. That's the most frustrating thing. I'd rather lose because someone's just better than me. Simple as that. You can't complain then. If you lose because you're posing shit, then that's awful. So I need to be on it with that. But that's pretty much everything covered. So obviously we're starting to get into some fat loss now. We're starting to see some minor changes, and it'll be exciting over the next few weeks. Give it a month, 2 months, and the photos will look very, very different then. And then it'll be a case of fine-tuning it and getting to a position where I look my best, and then hopefully that will be in time for the first show, and then working up, filling out and working back up, reverse dieting kind of thing up until the next show. But that's everything covered. So if anyone wants to ask any questions, feel free in the comments or drop me a message. If there is anything you'd like to see in these videos, obviously I'm doing like the vlog style videos alongside this, so if there's anything you'd like to see, then let me know. But I appreciate everyone watching. If you could give it a like, that would be awesome. If you could subscribe if you haven't already, that'd be great. And I will see you all in the next video.